All right, welcome to another episode of the Nick Lawfrey Bioenergetic Health Show. It's kind of a mouthful. Maybe I should change that. I have my guest here. His name is Jamie Alonge. Is that how you say that? Do you pronounce the G, Jamie?
You
Alonge?
know, it makes no sense.
Alonge?
It's Alonge.
Alonge. All right. Jamie Alonge. Jamie is an
Yes.
empathetic Tai Chi Qigong coach and group therapeutic provider for Los Angeles County Office of Diversion and Reentry Programs, which is like a thing for people in jail. He has worked with a range of communities, including assisted senior living, mental health, LGBTQ, and corporate wellness. Jamie has been practicing Tai Chi since 1996 and been teaching since 2014. Cool. So I kind of brought Jamie on because we got connected on Instagram or something. I was starting to post some stuff about how Qigong and nutrition and stuff had helped me with mental health stuff. And I don't remember what it was. Maybe I was just commenting on your thing. I don't remember how we found each other exactly, but we were kind of connecting. And then it turned out that Jamie has been doing work for the last 2 years with people with like pretty severe mental health disorders like schizophrenia and bipolar, who are sort of in the prison system. And the judicial system has kind of decided that they're not mentally fit to stand trial, and so they have to go through a program, I guess, to get more well. And part of that is Jamie coming along to these houses and teaching them Tai Chi and Qigong, which I think is super cool. So I had a little experience with something like this. I spent about a year just like once a week teaching at a youth mental hospital, like an outpatient hospital. So this was a lot of not as severe of mental illnesses. It was kids with like depression and anxiety and things like that. Some like suicidal, and then like some history of drug abuse. And they were kind of there as like an outpatient program. And I found it one of the hardest, or literally the hardest group I ever had to teach, aside from maybe like 4-year-olds, because like they were really not. It was so hard to get them to want to do it. And often once they did it, a lot of times they'd be like, "Oh wow, I can't believe how much better I feel." But actually motivating them to do it was a real challenge. So I thought it'd be fun to pick Jamie's brain about this, and maybe fun for some of you to hear it. Maybe you're going through some mental health stuff, or maybe you work with people with mental health stuff, or maybe you're just a qigong or yoga teacher or something and curious about how to talk to different populations. So hopefully this will be an enlightening conversation for all of us. So welcome, Jamie.
Thank you. That was a nice lead in there. Wow.
Yeah. And if you're watching this on video, no, apparently that is not a green screen. Jamie just has that fly of a background that he practices Qigong in. It used to be a music studio, I guess.
Yes. My mother and I actually stained each piece of wood together. She's a big part of my life,
Nice.
so we just popped it on up.
Nice.
Yeah.
So tell me, how did you wind up working with this population or this job?
Yeah, totally random. I was in a Tai Chi tournament,
Cool.
and I, shot some video of myself doing some forms from the tournament and posted them on my Instagram or Facebook. And one of my friends actually saw the post of just me doing the form and said, "Hey, I run 3 houses." In this program. And it just so happens last week that some of the clients at the house were watching Tai Chi videos randomly, just in the middle. And I was like, well, you do Tai Chi. They seem to be interested. Why don't you try teaching at these houses? So she invited me in. Yeah.
Wow, it's pretty random. So what was like your first experience with that like? Was it kind of a splash of cold water, or was it super easy right away?
Ooh. First experience, it was like a big to do because everybody came out, all the people who worked and all the people came out. And so I had like a little flyer for everyone with some Tai Chi principles, and it was just I prepared myself. And so but then of course it tailored off after day one, and only the people that were kind of really into it, I guess, not being forced to do it, sort of.
Hmm.
But so day one was, I'm remembering that, it was cool though. It was cool. Everybody's always fairly intrigued because not many people know really what Tai Chi or especially Qigong is. but they all want to do something like of this when I walk in. They're like, oh, it's the this guy's here.
Yeah. Yep. Could you give us a little brief, maybe like your philosophy of like why Tai Chi and Qigong? Like some people don't even know what it is, but like why would they be healing for people with mental illness? In
Yeah.
what way could they be helpful?
It's the thing that I get the most is it calms me down, it relaxes me. I mean, just simply put, getting out of and this is actually a quote from the people that, because I always ask them, well, how do you feel? And it's often said by them that it takes them out of their immediate voices in their head, or self voice, and just lets their mind be occupied with something else besides their anxiety.
Hmm.
So
Yeah, because I've heard the first thing I did, I was psychotic back in the day and had to figure out what to do about it. And kind of the first tool I found for myself, besides what the system was offering me with medication and stuff, was meditation. And it's very hard to meditate when you're hearing voices and stuff, because like just meditating normally and having your own voice is like pretty darn difficult. But having a bunch of voices is really hard. And I've kind of heard the same thing. I mean, I just kept sticking with it because it was the only thing I knew how to do. And eventually, I had like if I had to like the elevator pitch would be like I had like an exorcism basically, which is like it's almost not an exaggeration. Um, but I've heard a lot of other people say like, oh, like I tried meditating, but it didn't work because like it just made me like hear those voices even more. Like it just made me focus even more on my mind, which is why I've been kind of saying like maybe something like more body based, like qigong or yoga or something like that, is a better place to start. Um, so I think you're like spot on there. Like just focusing on movements and stuff, right? And Tai Chi can be kind of complex, right? So it can actually give like a lot to think about with your body, more so than even some of the simpler like Qigong and stuff.
yes, yes, good point about meditation. I mean, it can be hard enough, without any mental disorders. Just it's a great point.
Yeah,
Yeah, the moving aspect. A lot of people want to move and they don't move. You
right.
know. You know.
Yeah. Have you ever heard any? I know I've heard in the Qigong world some like warnings about having people with mental illness do Qigong, like it could make it worse in some way. Or have you ever heard anything like that?
Not yet. I haven't. I have. There was one thing that I heard that shouldn't be done. I can't think of it at the time, um, for mental people with mental disorders, but it wasn't necessarily qigong. So no,
Hmm.
I haven't heard any discouraging news really.
Yeah.
Uh, but that being said, I do modify, the lessons
Hmm.
towards the population that you're dealing with.
What kind of stuff do you do to modify?
So many things. I have like this big list here,
Cool.
but I mean, everything from definitely, obviously depending, but uh, first of all, I find myself doing probably about 60-70% Qigong, 30% Tai Chi because of what you had said, the complexity. I feel like Tai
Mhm.
Chi is a bit more complex than Qigong. Some
Yeah.
people maybe don't feel like that, but I feel like that. But I just, my particular community is, typically men and women in their 20s and 30s, so, younger, um, and and have basically essentially committed crimes, sometimes homeless, some of them happen to be homeless, or have a drug addiction past.
Mhm.
So I try to often meet them where they are, speak their speak. I'll do things like play Tupac. You know what I mean? I mean,
Mm.
it's I have music going on in the background, and I will, okay, somebody give me an uplifting hip hop song, or play things that they want to hear, anything to motivate them.
Mm.
And I often find myself creating Tai Chi or Qigong based games,
Mm.
rather than, some complex form. I will tend to do, instead of a whole April cage, maybe we're just going to do the first four, or maybe we're just going to pick three that I feel are great for frustration or anxiety.
Mm.
And just, instead of a whole form, do a part of a form,
Hmm.
things like that. But yeah, the games are fun.
Yeah.
Like who can hold the golden rooster longest, head
Right.
to head,
Yeah.
it's I tend to get really creative in that way. And
Yeah.
especially though with uh, Tai Chi speak or esoteric or acupuncture speak, I tend to eliminate most of that,
Yeah.
and just talk, basic terminology with people. Yeah.
Nice. Sounds really similar to what I was finding at the outpatient hospital. Kind of a similar thing. Like if I played Chinese flutes or something in the background, like all the kids rolling their eyes, like, "Are we here again?" And I'm like, "It's relaxing, don't you like it?" But if I played like lo-fi hip hop beats, like literally one of them one day who'd spent the whole like all the weeks before just sitting in the chair looking at the ground, all angry, not participating at all. He like looks up and he's like, "Wait, is this cool?" Like those are literally his words.
Am I
And I
feeling
was like,
good vibes from Nick
"Yeah."
right now?
So I
Yeah.
found I found a few different ways in, but the hard part was like a lot of times it was very individual. Like one of the kids was like really into Star Wars. So if I spent the beginning of a class just talking about how George Lucas got all the inspiration for the Jedi and everything from like the Taoists and the samurai and stuff, and then all of a sudden like this one kid was like super stoked to participate. Um, and then
Totally.
another one I tried was I would bring in the iPad and show them videos of like qigong tournaments, where like they do like the iron shirt and they're like hitting each other with sledgehammers and cutting iron bars with their fingers and stuff. And that's a really interesting video if you haven't seen it on YouTube. Just Google qigong tournament. It's like 45 minutes of great qigong entertainment. But that would get them really stoked. But if I didn't bring a gimmick like that, it never flew. Like there always had to be a gimmick. Which,
Yes.
some weeks I couldn't think of one, and it just was a terrible class. And other weeks I had a really good one, and it was a great class. But
I'm glad you're bringing that up, because that reinforces my, yeah, and you're right, good classes are. And you're right, in this community I found that you have to bring a gimmick, just like you
mhm.
said. Like I'll say, hey, you've heard of Buddha before, well, this bone marrow washing set, was literally done by Buddha, and now we're doing it, or this April Cades, is being done by Shaolin, people at Shaolin, and now we're doing it. Isn't that cool? Totally. I do the same thing.
Mm,
Anything to get their attention,
yeah.
and it's often um quickly, the attention span is often quickly going, so you kind of have to be on the fly a
Mm,
lot, switching things up. I got great advice from a best friend of mine when I was a musician and like a front man. And he was like, you have to get the audience in the palm of your hands, and once you get them there, you have to keep them there. So don't
mm,
just close your eyes on stage and sing expecting that anybody cares, or in our
mm,
case, teaching.
mhm.
You can get them, and then you got to keep them. You
Yeah.
have to know your audience and know the room.
Mm,
Yeah, good point.
yeah. That was definitely one of my favorite things about back when we could actually go out and teach people. That was one of the favorite things about my job was like just constantly meeting these different audiences. Like, okay, how am I gonna craft it for these guys, like firefighters and cops and stuff over here? And then now I'm at a seniors center, and now
That's
it's very
cool.
interesting. One of my favorites was I taught online at I think it was San Jose University drama class or something, and one of I think the teacher or something was found my qigong stuff, and yeah, it was the teacher, and she's like, "Oh, you got to come teach qigong to my drama students." And I was like, "Well, that's interesting. I don't know why they need qigong, but I'll try." And it was really interesting. I guess it was like kind of near the beginning of COVID, and they all seemed kind of like depressed. So we went around and like everybody introduced themselves and like the teacher led them through something of like saying what they were feeling and something like that. And most people were like, "Oh yeah, like my name is blah blah blah, and yeah, my back's a little sore right now, and I'm a little hungry." And just everybody just had something like really like melancholy to say, and And I got to me and I was like, yeah, like I'm feeling a little sore too, and I'm not feeling great. I'll be honest, but I'm so stoked because I know I'm gonna feel so good after this qigong. And I saw like something light up in their eyes. They're just like, oh, like wait, you can just make yourself feel good. And then we did the class, and it was like night and day. Like everybody at the end was just like, I can't believe how good I feel. The animals were so cool. It was actually really fun teaching drama students because like bringing in the animals and like you're pretending to be a dragon and you're pretending, and they're all you know nerds for that. I was a drama kid, so I can say it. We're nerds for that kind of stuff. So,
Gotcha. And I bet they also appreciated you being authentic, like, hey, I'm a bit sore too. Hey, I'm probably not waking up. I think people tend to think that, first of all, you're a master, right?
right.
I don't know if you walk in and like, oh, the Qigong master's here. And you're
Yeah.
like, maybe not, and they think that that we don't have ailments
I go by Jedi Master actually. So.
yeah.
No, but yeah, between that, like you can be like intimidating in a way, but then in another way, it's kind of like this like snobby, like good vibes only, man, and like and everybody feels like everybody gets like emotionally constipated because they're like, oh well, I'm a qigong teacher, so I'm never supposed to feel bad, so I'll just hide all my negative emotions all the time. And
Oh, good point.
yeah, not fun.
Yeah, not very yin or yang either. Not
Yeah, I was just talking to one of my students in my teacher training right now. And one of her questions for me was like, what do we do when we're like we got into qigong because like we were kind of like neurotic and like really psychologically imperfect, and that's why we did qigong. And now we're supposed to like be this person who like gets up in front of people and is like okay all the time in front of them. And it's like, how does that jive? And like, what do you do on the days when you feel like shit and you got to go be in front of a bunch of people? And I kind of told her like, well, I have a little trick where I teach the qigong class that I need on those days. Just and
nice.
I act like it's for everybody else. I'm like, all right, let's all do some centering today because like really I'm just like anxious and exhausted. So I'm like, okay, deep breathing for like 5 minutes at the start of class, or I'm like my energy's super low and like stagnant, so we just do a whole bunch of chi scattering at the beginning, and then my energy shifted enough that I'm like, okay, now I can be here for you guys.
That's great. I
Yeah.
just love hearing your stuff. I do the same thing.
Do you?
My wife, like last weekend, my wife had us, she was dragging me around the redwoods
Yeah.
my wife's like a beast. And so I have to keep up with her on these trails and, all sorts of things. So then it's just like back to teaching the next day all week. And I'm just dog tired or whatever, or sore in
Yeah.
places I didn't know. It's just like, okay, we're going to do some Qigong meditation this week. And my teacher gave me the same advice, like teach, what it is that you're working on, or want to work on that week. So
And a lot of the times it's a better class because it's a little more authentic. Because instead of like kind of trying to guess how everybody else is feeling and like guess what qigong would be good for how they probably feel, like exactly how you're feeling and what qigong you need. So at least there's one person in the class that it's like 100% this is gonna work. And then I think that winds up making it like often more effective for everybody else too.
that's a great point.
Yeah.
Yeah, brilliant. There was just one thing that I wanted to share that was the most important advice I was given. And so, for your audience and perhaps future teachers,
Sure.
it's like never underestimate the value of the hour that you're there with them right now. Because I used to think, oh, like for example, when I was teaching, people 90 years old and with Parkinson's or even dementia, you know, I was starting to get a little frustrated about the lack of retention,
Hmm.
doing the same move and them not being able to get past move two or whatever it is.
Yeah.
And, and then that was the advice given to me, like, no, that hour that you're there with them, you're moving chi, you're helping right then and there. So, if they don't practice on their own throughout the week, so be it. But it
Hmm.
doesn't negate the work that you're spending and the time that you're spending there in the moment, in the present. There is a lot of benefits right there. So
Yeah, and that's kind of the difference with Tai Chi and Qigong, right? Is Tai Chi like it really does involve that memorization, But Qigong, you can kind of just show up to class and join and follow along, and you get the benefits, and you can go home and just totally forget about it and come back the next week and have a whole new class, but you'll still get the benefits.
Mm.
I had a similar experience teaching some Tai Chi, where like I was so surprised like how long it took everybody to learn everything, and I was like, oh shit, maybe we need like 20 weeks instead of 10 weeks, and but I think there's like two different like benefits that you can think about people getting, like the kind of chi benefit, like once you have the flow, whether it's qigong or tai chi, like once you're actually in the flow, and like the healing benefits and the chi and the relaxation and all that stuff that comes, or the other side of like you're learning something complicated, you're not really getting into a space where you're like it's like mindfulness and meditative and deep and producing a lot of chi or anything, but you're still like there's so many benefits for the brain from like learning new things. The left and right brain have to communicate, and I believe it like makes the brain make like BDNF and brain derived neurotropic factor, and just has like all kinds of good cognitive benefits, especially people getting older. So even if they like go home and forget it and relearn the same thing every week, they're still gonna be getting that same benefit of like learning something new, because at least it'll feel new every week.
Nice.
Yeah,
That's awesome. I love that.
yeah.
I love that.
So have you ever heard of people going crazy from doing qigong?
My teacher used to touch
I know, I've
on,
only ever heard of it. I've never seen it.
yeah, and he would never expand on it, but um, so I think it's somewhere along the lines I've heard it, but I don't know. I think based on certain ailments, maybe certain qigong specific ones wouldn't be
Yeah.
recommended, but not generally a blanket statement,
Yeah.
right?
I like Damo Mitchell's idea of overly focusing on like visualization,
Okay.
and like using your mind to like move chi around your body by like forcing your attention to certain particular places, can have like the opposite effect that you want. So like let's say you want to like you're visualizing like a golden pearl in your lower dantian or something.
Okay.
But like what winds up happening is like you're getting a headache and you're getting all this pressure in your head because all the chi. His idea is like the chi is going to your head to feed that mental effort, right? So if you're using all this mental effort to like visualize and everything,
Yeah.
the chi actually just winds up going to the head instead of the place you're trying to tell it to go. And so his idea is just use the body, like the way we move, the way we hold the posture, the way we breathe should direct the chi mostly on its own without us having to like use our mind to like force it. And I think that's probably the way to think about it. Like if you're trying to teach to people with like serious mental illnesses, or they're shen, they're like mental energies already kind of like disturbed, right? You don't want to be like producing a whole lot more of it. Probably not to have them be like doing like Mantak Chia, like microcosmic orbit, like visualizing pearls going up and down their spine, and colors in their
Yeah.
organs and all that stuff.
That's a great point. And that being said, I have been experimenting a lot with the six healing sounds and the inner smile meditation
Nice.
with these this population, and I
Well, I think
do,
the healing sounds would have the opposite effect, right?
yeah,
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 just clearing excess energy, right?
yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. But I'll incorporate some color and some positive virtue going to a certain organ, but
Okay.
that's about the extent of it. Yeah, definitely no microcosmic orbit, and definitely not much of that. And
And they seem to be able to do that. It doesn't create problems, and it feels fine. Or just it's just an experiment so far. Or...
well, it's been they seem to love it. I
Yeah.
mean, they're asking for it.
I think the
After,
combo with the sounds is a great way to go, because if there's like chi stagnation that's like locking their energy in their head, the sounds are going to help a lot with that, anyways. So
yeah,
actually, that reminds me. There was this interesting study that Five Branches University, the acupuncture school. Where do you live again?
I'm in Los Angeles.
Oh, okay. So I think Five Branches is Bay Area,
Okay.
but they're like a Chinese medicine school, and they did this experiment where they took a bunch of homeless people who had mental illness and spent like a month or something like doing this charity event where they had their students practice acupuncture and stuff on them. And you know how they do like the Chinese diagnosis, they feel the pulse, look at the tongue, look at the eyes, all that stuff, and it can basically tell like what's going on with your internal organs. Well,
Yes.
apparently pretty much all of them had stagnant liver chi, so they wind up with like heat in the liver that then like rises and disturbs the shen of the heart and the brain and everything. And also dried out the intestines, so they were all constipated. And it's
Wow.
just so weird. They like all had the same stuff wrong with them, and that just reminded me like the healing sounds are like so good for clearing that stagnation, right? Especially obviously doing the liver sound. Um, that's probably like the way to go.
Yeah, and it really worked for me. So I was like, hey, because and then I noticed that I tend to be I call myself a recovering worrier.
Oh yeah,
So when I
you seem
learned
like an Earth type.
yeah, yeah, yeah. And when I started doing the six healing sounds, I was just like, whoa, like a lot of the neurosis and whatnot is just it's just empty. There's just this clearing there.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Did
So
you notice particularly like the spleen sound was helpful for that, or
yes, I
yeah,
mean, yeah,
interesting.
absolutely.
Yeah,
So I'm really big into the six healing sounds,
nice.
and the inner smile is just almost like this little baby version of it,
Yeah,
But I wanted to share that what I found to be the most popular Tai Chi move. What would you say? Like the move
most
that
popular.
yeah.
I'm imagining it's like whatever's really fun. So maybe like snake creeps down or something.
Well, I mean, that could be hard for people that are like, oh,
Oh
my
yeah, yeah.
knee. Everybody, instead of everybody loves Raymond, everybody loves Cloud Hands.
Oh,
And
I was gonna say cloud hands, but
oh my
okay, that
gosh,
was my
yeah,
first thought.
that's
It's
just
because of the heart healing aspect, or
just
do
because
you think?
it's like Bruce Lee, or
Oh yeah,
like
yeah.
it's like the typical thing that you think of when you think of Tai Chi person,
Right.
and then
We do
just
feel very kung fu with it.
yeah, yeah. So just like a little tip to everyone, all the teachers out there, can never go wrong exploring cloud hands with first timers.
Yeah.
It's
Or
just
just learning a little kung fu, because kung fu makes a great warm up. And that was another way I found to get those kids more into it. And the firefighters too. They loved when I did the kung fu with them. Learn a little
nice.
bit of kung fu. It's like you get in a deep horse stance, you're throwing all these crazy punches and kicks and stuff, and you can kind of like simplify it so that a lot of kung fu is like these long like katas, right, where you have to memorize. Again, like Tai Chi, you got to memorize like 20 moves that all go in a row, but you can really just take a little piece of those and simplify it. And I find that stuff's really useful for clearing people's hesitation for thinking qigong is going to make you too soft or something.
Yes. And the animals, like you mentioned, like I've
Yeah,
found that my groups with the mental disorders, they love the animals. Um,
nice.
yeah, and another thing that I wanted to mention that was probably the second best advice I got when dealing with specifically, like you mentioned, I most of the people are um, dealing with schizophrenia that I deal with. Um, is because my little brother has that ailment as well. So
Hmm.
he has schizophrenia, and so I do have some experience with a family member. And he said, as much as they need Tai Chi and Qigong, and mind you, the people I'm dealing with have like a 2-year sentence that they're serving, so they're in form of that system with the mental disorder.
Mhm.
And so he's like, yes, they could use Tai Chi and Qigong, but they could also use a friend.
Mm.
And so I always take that into heart. I don't just, it's not just like, okay, let's go. Okay, peace, I'm out afterwards. It's really just trying to engage them on hey, how's it going? How's this? How's that? Just talking to them about their life, while I'm
Mm.
setting up or getting ready, or asking them questions about, so how's it going? When are you going to be out of here? When is your date? Are you getting housing? Um, the program that I'm in actually gets them into transition, their own independent living
Oh,
after
cool.
they're competent. And so that's really cool. But I like to show up and be friends with my students
Mm.
in general. I think it's just my love for people, but I definitely think that it builds relationship, you know, and it builds trust, that
Nice.
it looks like I care, and I do, you know.
Yeah. Well, that's
Yeah.
great advice, and especially for that community where they're often like very ostracized and probably wind up with a lot of low self-esteem, and
Right.
people don't want to associate with a lot of people schizophrenia is like a scary word for a lot of people and stuff, right?
Yeah,
So it's a good way to think about it.
absolutely. Yeah.
Yeah, I think I was just posting on TikTok the other day about like often like we think of like when we're thinking of mental health, we're thinking it's like really serious. It's like I'm going to deal with this childhood trauma and I'm going to deal with this neurochemistry and it's all this very serious stuff. But one of the best things I did was just take up rock climbing and like make a best friend who was also into rock climbing. And this was kind of a little bit past the psychosis and more I was kind of just like super depressed and stuff. But it like totally pulled me out of my depression just to have something I really love to do where I could see myself improving and then that connecting me to a community and friendship. And that was like one of the best things I ever did for myself. So
That's awesome.
yeah, that stuff's real.
Stuff is real.
Yeah.
Exactly.
Well, anyways, I think we could probably wrap up there, but hopefully that was some good tidbits for yoga teachers, Qigong teachers, anybody out there find that useful. And
Cool.
really enjoyed chatting. It's cool to chat in person and not just in Instagram DMs. So.
It totally is. Hey, there's just one thing I wanted to squeeze in too.
Sure,
One last
go
thing,
for it.
is just, I was looking into the Tao Te Ching's, sort of topics on leadership,
Mm-hmm.
and there's obviously some really cool things there,
Mm-hmm.
but when I read that, you're almost supposed to have it be like a good leader makes the people feel like they've done it themselves.
Mm.
I thought that was brilliant, and like I just have a quote. It says, like water, the leader is yielding
Mm.
because the leader does not push, the group does not resent or resist. Um, and a leader is best when people barely know he exists. They can say we did it ourselves. And so
Wow.
I often, if they're telling me today that they want to do the animals and I had the summer Qigong planned, we're doing the animals. It's an instant pivot. So
Yeah.
I often do that a lot, like just
Nice.
kind of go where they want to go for the day. It really makes no difference to me. So I don't want people to be attached to their lesson plan for the day.
Nice. That's a really good way to put it. That reminds me, I don't know if you heard of this. There's this Navy SEAL guy, Jocko. I guess he's a retired Navy SEAL, but now he teaches on like leadership. But he basically says the same thing. I don't know if he read the Tao Te Ching now. I got to go check. But he's basically saying the same thing when he was like a captain of a Navy SEAL team. Like he would basically be like, all right, here's the mission. Here's what we're supposed to do. You guys figure out how we're going to do it. And he
Nice.
said like the benefit of it was because they thought of the plan, like they were so much more committed to seeing it through because they weren't like, here's what the boss told us to do. And we're probably going to get shot because he told us to do this really dumb thing. But instead they're like, oh, we thought of the plan. Like this is going to work. Let's all do it. And I'm sure that applies to more than killing people. So,
That makes total sense. They're invested.
yeah.
Yeah, I love that. I love that.
So why not apply it to Qigong? I love it.
Yeah, exactly.
Cool, man. Well, Jamie has been nice enough to give us a free link to his Tai Chi Qigong online. You didn't want to call it a course. Did you have like a funner word than a course you wanted to use?
I mean, I just call it my warm up. Yeah, I guess it kind of, what is it?
A program?
Program, I guess.
Yeah, sure. Jamie's Tai Chi Qigong program. So if you're watching this on YouTube, obviously I have tons of Qigong stuff, but Jamie mixes it with Tai Chi, and you're probably going to love that, especially if you haven't done much Tai Chi. It's super, super fun. I really recommend it.
I like watching your Tai Chi too. I like when I see you do some Tai Chi, I'm like, his Tai Chi
Yeah.
is strong. Yeah.
Nice, thanks. Qigong really helps make your Tai Chi better, huh?
Oh yeah. Like
Yeah.
I've taught somebody that came from the Qigong world, and it's just like speaking to someone who's like, yep, I got it. So yeah, I found that when you come from Qigong, you're ready to roll into the Tai Chi for sure.
Nice. Well, you'll see that link down below the video or audio if this becomes a podcast. If I ever figure out how to make this into a podcast, this will be in the podcast feed. So click that link and you can go get it for free. And thanks, Jamie, for providing that. Anywhere else you want them to find you?
I guess I'm probably the most active on Instagram. Regeneration Tai Chi is my handle right now.
Regeneration Tai Chi. Love it. All right, man. Thanks for
having
chatting.
me. Yeah,
All right.
absolutely. It's been
Yeah, we'll see
great.
this again soon.
Okay.